Of sports with Schoode and Tor, football discussion on the internet.
Oh boy, that's just me, and that's how a player's got to be. Let's see, do I have a co-host today? There he is. It's young Gigantor. Usually he pretends to be a Caps fan. Today he's pretending to be a Nationals fan. Hello, young Gigantor. How are you, buddy?
Gotta be happy. Come on, Stone Garrett comes back, hits a home run, first at bat back off the IL.
Who?
It's a good stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Who? Is that Leafs brother? Oh, that is a dated joke. Oh, that's bad.
Stone Garrett is maybe the most bulked up, in shape, handsome man in baseball. I don't know if I've ever seen a baseball player with bigger arms.
Stone Garrett could walk into this room and shit on the floor. And I would say, who is that shitting on my floor? I've got no fucking idea. That's all right. Welcome to the program, friendos. It is both types of sports. If you're watching live on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. Hit that like button and consider going to Chad Duke Show on YouTube and subscribing. It is free. And then you'll always know when we go live. There are links at the bottom on the banner to our iTunes and our Spotify. And if you go look in the description, Tor, I'm only 15 years late on this YouTube thing. All of our information is there. All the iTunes, all the back catalog, all the links, all the Venmos, all the fun stuff. So if you have a question, check the description for the episode and you can figure out how to become a YouTube member and get our entire back catalog. Nathan Farley just did that. Farley. Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate that very, very much, my friend. And hello, friendos. Hello, David Marksbury. He was, you remember David Marksbury? He was with us yesterday, Tor, during both types of sports game day, and he was talking a bunch of shit. That was fun when that happens. Of
course. One of the few Colts fans that is even walking proudly as a Colts fan.
I would agree. I don't know how you can be walking proudly as a Colts fan in any walk of life. It's like rooting for a big jug of mayonnaise. But Joe Flacco had some funny. He was doing some shtick out there, wasn't he? I think he said Anthony Richardson's mother is 6 months older, younger than he is at some point.
Only 8 days older than him.
Was that what it is?
Yeah, and I guess Anthony Richardson thought Joe Flacco was cool, which Joe Flacco was like so not cool for his entire time in Baltimore. And since, I guess, going on when he started becoming full-time backup, like with the Jets, maybe that's when he started becoming cool.
I think he's still a goofball, but I think what he's doing on the field is definitely cool. And if you didn't tune into our show yesterday, I don't blame you, but I had the thought that Joe Flacco proves and Gardner Minshew prove that the Indianapolis Colts are a serious franchise. And what is going on in Miami proves that team is not. And I think you could argue what's going on in Cleveland. If you've got a weapon on your team that is being rumored to be traded to the Kansas City Chiefs right now, you are not a serious franchise. And I guess that would include your Atlanta Falcons tour coming off a big win. I saw your pop-off live on the air was getting some run on the interwebs.
Yeah, I was being accused of not interacting with a certain Twitter account at Both Types Sports. If you want to follow that on Twitter,
Thank you.
It's a nice account, and I like we encourage you to play football outside, which we will be seeing some of this year. Not enough, but some, and I think we should be happy while we have it before they take the pads off, and it's just 7-on-7 in NBA stadiums.
The Jets didn't want to play football outside yesterday. Jesus Christ. We will get to that. Yeah, it's not good, Tor. There's a bunch of good stories from yesterday, and Derrick Henry is story 1A for me personally. I know he's right there for you because you like a big, thick, strong gentleman just as much as I do. But 15 penalties, 13 accepted on the New Jersey Football Jets. 90 yards in a tight, low-scoring, bad weather game that you ultimately lose. Whew, that's a rough one to stomach, even if it is only 1 week.
Yeah, the Sean Payton getting a win over the Jets after all that shit he was talking about the previous Broncos head coach who went to the Jets. It's I don't like Sean Payton, but I guess if you give him enough time, he can turn a franchise as seemingly unsalvageable as the Denver Broncos have been the last couple years to a team that can compete with a legit AFC contender like the Jets.
Matthew Coller is going to join us today, our buddy from Minnesota. He writes for Purple Insider. That guy's blown up doing his own thing, so excited to bring him on. They did the bit that teams sometimes do yesterday, and I see there's some HTTR people in the chat already. That team doesn't exist anymore. Put a potato on the side of your helmet, friendos. But I'll give them credit, Tor. I see teams do this bit a lot where you jump out to a big lead. The Ravens have done this. The Minnesota Vikings did it yesterday. And then you dick the fuck around until you're slugging it out again. The Cowboys, when they came roaring back on Baltimore. And now it's like it's a white knuckler when you're up 25, 30 points. The Vikings did that yesterday, even though I'm going to make an argument. I think they're the best team in the NFC right now, and I think a lot of people are on that bandwagon. Guess who didn't? The Washington Football Commanders, who you want to talk about an impressive win, and I get it. I want to get into this a little bit more later in the show, but on paper, going out to Phoenix where there's no home field advantage against a 1-2 Cardinals team without Trey McBride, on paper, that don't look too good. They were up to beat Cliff Kingsbury, and to go out there and to beat the shit out of them for 4 straight quarters, step on their throats, leave town with a thunderous ovation from the locker room. That's what winning organizations do. That's not something I'm accustomed to see Washington franchises do that.
On the Sunday show, I feel like half a jackass because I thought that Arizona was going to put up a fight, and I don't think that they necessarily rolled over. I think it was more Washington just flexing the big guns all game, run game, pass game. Terry McLaurin getting finally a quarterback that's not afraid to throw to him in the end zone. How refreshing is that for that dude? Supporting Jaden Daniels, supporting the offensive line getting better, supporting the running back room. But if you're a Skins Washington football team Commanders fan, the one guy that should have your allegiance forever is Terry McLaurin, who stuck around, and you never thought it was going to get better for him. And at least through 4 weeks, it has. So I'm just so happy that he's finally getting the love from the passer and from the national scope of recognition, saying this guy really is a phenomenal wide receiver that's doing a lot of the things the right way and finally being rewarded for it.
Well, and also, doing it without Austin Eckler, who's been big for them the past couple of weeks. So we'll get to all of that. But I think the biggest story in the NFC, and maybe has been for a couple of weeks now, is the Minnesota Vikings, and a gentleman we always enjoy discussing that with. I know he's busy. Kevin O'Connell, I believe, is going up on the podium in just a couple of few, but our buddy Matthew Coller, who I believe this is the first time face-to-face, brother. Great to see you. How are you?
It is. I am doing quite well here. I'm inside the team facility, which is kind of a closet, so it may be a little on the echoey side for you guys. Sorry about that, but it is exciting times, fellas. I think you guys both picked 4-0. You put your houses on 4-0 for the Vikings to start the season, right? So I imagine you guys are just rolling in cash right now.
It's not what I expected. None of this is what I expected this year. Seattle's playing undefeated ball tonight. I think that's more scheduling. I don't think that about the Vikings. And the Vikings, what's crazy about these performances is it's not just the Justin Jefferson show, which I would assumed it was going to have to be with Sam Darnold as the quarterback. Take us through it from the jump. You've always been rather objective about this organization. JJ McCarthy goes down. I said, I think we spoke around then, I thought that really worked in Darnold's favor, that no one's looking over his shoulder. I didn't think I believe he's the MVP of the NFL, which I do right now. From the time where that is the news and we're not going to have the guy we drafted to where we are now, and they're looking like the best team in the NFC. Can you kind of give us some perspective on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in the offseason, the Vikings knew that they were going to need a bridge quarterback because I think that JJ McCarthy was on their radar as the person that they were probably going to draft the entire time. Sometimes those mock drafters are right. And they knew that that was a very realistic possibility. But they also knew that if you draft JJ McCarthy, he's only thrown 700 college passes. So you are going to have to develop him. And as much pressure as there is for rookie quarterbacks to go in there right away, it all depends on the guy. Like apparently Jaden Daniels was really ready to do it. But he's also 24 and JJ McCarthy was 21. So what Kevin O'Connell went looking for was, rather than a proven older player that would have a ceiling, somebody that could be a reclamation project for him. And also, I know this about O'Connell, that he does tons of work on every single quarterback, every single draft season, no matter if they're drafting one or not. So he would have liked Sam Darnold back in the day when he was coming out. The other thing is, too, that O'Connell knows Kyle Shanahan pretty well. And the reviews that I've gotten from asking people around the league, and I did this all summer long, anyone who had any connection to Sam Darnold, I would ask them, whether it's the combine or people I know in the league, what do you think? What do you think of Sam Darnold? And what it kept coming back to is everyone said he's super talented and he's a really good dude. And that's a combination that could actually work with Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and everything that they have here. There's people I know in Carolina who are like, it was Matt Rule's fault. It was the offensive line. It was the weapons. And okay, I can only believe that to some extent when the numbers are what the numbers are. But this team provides the single best setup when you go from coach to quarterback coach, which is Josh McCown, a guy that Sam Darnold was familiar with from the New York Jets, to the number one receiver in the NFL, a first-round draft pick in Jordan Addison, two offensive tackles that are tremendous and have blocked extremely well through this start. And then now with Aaron Jones, they have a legitimate running game. I mean, if you give Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, like we've seen this, Jalen Hurts, we've seen this model around the league work pretty well. And when there's no Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in the NFC, you give yourself a pretty good chance. It is surprising the numbers are this high, but I do think that during the summer, we saw the confidence of Sam Darnold grow, and also the environment that O'Connell creates is one of him always believing in his players, always supporting his players. And I think there are times where maybe you would say, oh, you should be more of a hard ass or this or that, which, at times we have said that. But when it comes to a quarterback and how delicate that position is, how difficult that position is, I think O'Connell, being a former NFL quarterback, fully understands what his quarterbacks see and also how they feel, the emotions that they go through. And he has worked extremely hard to play to Sam Darnold's strengths. This is not the same offense that Kirk Cousins was running. This is different. And I think that also speaks to how much he poured into Darnold. So for the head coach, it was never, hey, you're just that other guy, but McCarthy's my real favorite son. He treated them both as equal children of his. And I think we're really seeing the results of that.
Matthew, what has the Vikings defense done so well this year? Holding the 49ers to 17 points, the Texans to 7. It was pretty belt to ass against the Packers all game until they marched back. And I think that was just probably we were up by so much, taking some plays off. But overwhelmingly, the Vikings defense has been solid. What have they been doing differently this year to really help out that side of the ball?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is it's in the Jimmies and Joes and not the X's and O's because they went out in the offseason. And imagine this, guys, when you send Kirk Cousins and his massive contract somewhere else and you only pay $10 million. I know that you would have no understanding of this at all. But um, when you send all that money elsewhere and you're only paying Darnold 10 million and the rookie contract for McCarthy is like 3 or something, then you can give that to other people who are good at football. And they went out and got Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, and at the last minute, they bring in Stephon Gilmore. These are 4 dudes who are extremely proven in the league. These are Pro Bowlers. These are double-digit sack guys. These are, I think Andrew Van Ginkel might be the most underappreciated player in the NFL because he's so multiple in his role that he doesn't get 10 sacks because he drops back in coverage so often and he makes plays in the run game so often. And they use him as this multifaceted type of player. But when you can solidify positions that were pretty weak for them last year, they lost Daniil Hunter, but they replaced him with 4 guys. And I think last year they had limitations at linebacker, limitations at cornerback that have really been resolved. And what veteran players allow Brian Flores to do is anything he wants. I mean, when you're trying to cover up for this guy, cover up for that guy, then you have to dial it back. You have to say, okay, we can't run that blitz. We can't run that look. We can't make those checks. And with these veteran players, the biggest thing that they do is they get to the line of scrimmage, they look at the offense, and then they check to whatever play they feel is best for what they expect the offense to do. They're not just lining it up and running whatever play call he is sent in there. He's made it so they kind of determine their own fate once the play comes in. And that's something that you just can't ask a bunch of rookies or young players. In the NFL, we love if a team is young. Oh my gosh, they drafted this guy. It's so great how young this team is. Look at them. But most oftentimes, teams that win have a lot of veterans on them because this stuff is complicated and difficult. And when you have Cashman running the show out there, and he's been in the NFL for years, or Van Ginkel, who's been with Flores back since Miami, you can do a lot of different things. And of course, Harrison Smith is playing at a high level too. So I think it's just that they really don't have a weakness and they have so many players that can be multiple. So he can be the evil genius that he wants to be and not like last year, which was mostly just kind of blitz or drop everybody. Now it's way more complicated than it was.
Matthew Coller joins us. Purple Insider covers the Vikings for them. His book, Football is a Numbers Game, is available anywhere you find fine books. Just search for it and read it and buy it and all those good things if you're a football fan. The decision in that game, and look, the Packers are an NFL franchise. They've got weapons. They got back into the game. I'm not as hung up on that as I'm sure local callers are to sports talk radio hosts in that area, but I was very surprised Jordan Love started that game. I was very surprised they didn't let Malik Willis. He was playing well. He was playing confidently. I didn't think that Jordan Love had anything to worry about. I'm not in his head after that big contract. He certainly looked rusty, and a couple of those picks were pretty bad. I don't think the game ends. The end result is different, Matthew, if Malik Willis is in there, but I think they have a better shot at it. How much different do you think it would have unfolded if, Jordan Love is given another week to heal up?
Yeah, no, I certainly think that that was a factor because his comfort early in the game did not look particularly good. And then there were just some easy throws that he usually makes that didn't have the same juice on them. And it looked like he was trying to figure out how much can I really plant? And when you watch him throw, and they've done the million slowdowns of him and Rodgers and how they do those throws, but a lot of it is sort of bending and twisting off of his leg. And it just didn't seem like he had the confidence early on. Now, after he took a few hits and after he got into it, yeah, then it looked a lot more like the same Jordan Love. There was also way less pressure when, the Vikings are running 3, they're trying to drop everybody back, and that kind of cost them because Love was so aggressive at that point that he was able to bring them back in the game. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's always difficult because he has to get back out there eventually after the injury. And if they feel like it's safe for him to play, then it's better than having Malik Willis, as much as I am so impressed with the way that they handled Malik Willis and a couple of wins there. But you're not playing Tennessee at that point. You're playing a team that was coming in 3-0 that was really good. So I think that probably did ramp up the pressure for him to get back as fast as he possibly could. I also think, too, that football and the way games play out can be so funny, where Sam Darnold on the second play of the game throws an absolute horrible pick and the guy drops it. And then the next couple of plays, they're in the end zone. You're like, okay, well, if that had gone a different way. And the same thing, Vikings linebacker Kamu Grugier-Hill makes an incredible play to intercept the pass. If he doesn't make that, does Love get rolling after that? And does the score go the same way that it does? So I think it's always easier after the fact to kind of go back and go, well, this is how it went, so they shouldn't have done whatever. As you mentioned, that's a classic sports talk radio type of mindset. But I do think that they were a little bit between a rock and a hard place there. If you play Malik Willis, you're probably not going to beat Brian Flores' defense against this team. But if you push Jordan Love out there, you might be risking him, and you do risk that kind of rustiness. I think by the end of the game, he looked like the same player, but certainly off the start, it was the easy throws that I felt like he wasn't making easy on himself.
I want to ask about where the power ranking is. And I think that the 49ers are I don't think they're going to be there at the end of the year. This very nebulous Christian McCaffrey situation is odd. They always get injured. They're very injured early. I know the Lions are a very talented team. I think they're going to be there at the end of the year. The Buccaneers were very impressive yesterday and continue to just beat the hell out of the Philadelphia Eagles ad nauseum, which makes for fun sound bites. But I didn't trust when Derek Carr was going out there and looking like the greatest show on turf, because I know better. I like Sam Darnold. He looked good for that one game thing in San Francisco, but are we gonna see Sam Darnold that we know, or is this believable? Is this trustable? Are the Minnesota Vikings right now, they look like the best team in the NFC? Are they going to look like that in 8 weeks?
Yeah, I think when it comes to Darnold, if it was in a vacuum, I would say, well, I think that the guy is a little too turnover prone to be an elite quarterback who runs an elite offense. And we did see some of that yesterday. I noticed fans were unhappy with his PFF grade, but he had 3 turnover worthy plays. And that's going to sink your grade. And if he has 3 turnover worthy plays where he nearly throws a pick in the red zone, fumbles the ball, you're not going to win most of those games, because most of the time you're not jumping up 28-0 and you can just screw up and not have it hurt you. So I think that gene is still in Sam Darnold. Like, he is the guy at USC who put the team on his back. He's the guy who tried way too hard, I think, with the Jets and Panthers to make it his entire show. And there was a crazy stat that I dug up about Darnold, that when he was playing at either tied or winning, he was an average to above average quarterback. When he was losing, he was horrendous. He was trying way too hard to try to come back and throw picks and make big mistakes, where they're going to, I think, have to manage that as they actually fall behind in some games. Like, Sam, you don't have to play hero. It really truly is one play at a time with him. But when we talk about the infrastructure of this team, I have never seen in person, I've watched Randy Moss and I've watched Jerry Rice, but I've never seen in person a better wide receiver than Justin Jefferson. Yeah. That is very calming. That helps you work through just about anything. And the fact that they will bring back TJ Hawkinson in the middle of the season, you just hard pressed to convince me that this is going to get worse for him. And you look at the schedule, this was the hardest part of the schedule. Yeah. And they won all the games. So I don't know. The regression is always a sneaky, tricky thing, and it always feels like it's around the corner. And I don't think Darnold is going to throw 45 touchdowns and finish the year with 120 quarterback rating. That would be Aaron Rodgers MVP territory. But I do think that he will hit a slump at some point, and the real test will be, how does he pull himself out of that? Because he's had other hot streaks before, and when he got into a slump, he took weeks and weeks to get out of it. But he also didn't have Jefferson, and he also didn't have O'Connell, and he also didn't have a running game all the time in those other places. So I think that this is probably closer to the true Sam Darnold. And just one other stat to throw at you. Since the beginning of 2022, so you remember he played only 6 games in 22, started 1 game for the 49ers, and now this, an 11-game sample, last 11 games. And I know this is a statistical folly, but just follow with me here.
Sure.
Is 101 quarterback rating, 20 touchdowns and 7 picks in his last 11 games. That's starting to stretch out that sample size of Sam Darnold playing pretty well since he's been away from Matt Rule and since he's been away from Adam Gase. So, I mean, I can't guarantee it. Nobody can, but it becomes more believable when you see that you can just fling the ball up in the air and it turns into a touchdown because of who's on the other side catching it.
Your next book should be Away from Matt Rule, Away from Adam Gase, the Sam Darnold story, and I would pre-order it the first day it went up. Sorry, go ahead, Tor. Apologize.
Yeah, Matthew, briefly, just before I know you got to get out of here. Do Vikings fans feel like they're just laughing on their way to the bank with getting Aaron Jones this offseason, being one of the teams that nailed it in the offseason and shows, hey, we have to upgrade the running back position, and we're going to get a guy that we know can fill that void in Aaron Jones?
You know, as a real analytics and statistical enthusiast, I think that sometimes we believe that generalities apply to every single situation always and forever, and that is a mistake. And that would be a mistake for Aaron Jones and the age curve, I think. And we'll see how it plays out for the rest of the season. But Aaron Jones is different than the age curve. He hasn't looked any bit slower. He looks like the same guy that ran for 100 yards in his last 5 games for the Green Bay Packers. The other thing is, too, this Vikings organization is smart with stuff like this. They brought him in and they created a plan immediately when he got here to manage his health from OTAs to training camp. He didn't practice all that often. They did routines before and after for his recovery. I mean, they are doing everything they can to extend his peak of his career, which it feels like he's still in. This team is so bad at running the last couple of years, and we kept going back and forth. Like, is it the scheme? Is it the coach? Is it the lineman? They just didn't have Aaron Jones. This is a guy that averaged 5.8 yards per carry against the Vikings over all the years that he had been in Green Bay. So yes, when he arrived here, it was like, okay, well, at very least, we don't have to get smoked by this guy over and over again. And then you see it's the little things. They needed another score in the fourth quarter, and they're going to pass the football. They're trying to go down the field, kind of put the game away, get 2-score lead back. And Aaron Jones steps up and just drills a linebacker in pass protection, allowing Sam Darnold all day to get it to Justin Jefferson. It's all the little things with him. It's the extra 3 yards when it looks like he's caught in the backfield. They put him last week at wide receiver. He ran a crossing route, caught a touchdown pass. I mean, he could do just about anything with this guy. So even though I think that Josh Jacobs is pretty good in Green Bay, they maybe missed the forest through the trees a little bit there with Aaron Jones.
Derrick Henry's pretty good in Baltimore, too, from what we saw last night. I know Coach is going up to speak here, Matthew, but 30 seconds doing the Packers in Lambeau from just a sports perspective. I imagine I can't think of anything bigger. Washington went into that stripper pole stadium on Thanksgiving, and Robert Griffin III ran all over the field in 2012, and no one's over it. It's 12 years later, and we still talk about it all the time in this area. When this happens, when the Vikings go and do this, like what's the ramifications with the fan base?
It's not quite the level of, hey, as long as you beat the Packers, we don't care about the record at the end. I don't think that Vikings fans feel it that way, but there is a shocking number of Packers fans in Minnesota.
Sure.
So everybody going to work today was probably feeling way better. And doing it at Lambeau, everybody in Minnesota understands that Lambeau is special, that it has this historical meaning, and Darnold was playing his first game ever there, and Jones was doing the comeback thing. This one just was a lot of levels. I mean, if they weren't going to 4-0 and they were going to 1-3, well, then we might go, who cares, on to the next one. But this also has meaning in that team is supposed to win the NFC North this year. And now you're up 2 games on them early in the season. So a lot of different levels to that. But yes, as far as how Vikings fans feel, the whole state of Minnesota, it is a different day when you beat the Green Bay Packers, for sure.
Certainly is. And you can see right there, you should be following the gentleman on X at Matthew Coller, of course, covered on Purple Insider. And get the book, for God's sakes. Read books. It's good for you. Football is a numbers game wherever books are sold. There's a pinned comment there that I see. I'm sure you can find a link. Matthew, I know you're busy today. Thank you so much, brother. Great content as always.
All right. We'll talk soon, man. Appreciate it.
And you're the man. How can I be the man? We're the man. Shake it up. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Got to go see Kevin O'Connell wave his dick around. I don't know that I've ever seen Tor more wide receivers in the 10 to 20 yard range, just running open, just running freely down the field. It's like, how did Jordan Addison, there's nobody around him. Like Justin Jefferson is standing there with the safety. That's something that O'Connell McVay, LaFleur, Tree, like they do that kind of shit really well, getting guys open, not necessarily all the way down the field, but those intermediate routes with those chunk yardage plays, man, the Vikings are good at that.
It's really demoralizing if you're watching a team that's so good at that, because all you do is yell at the TV. How is he that open? How am I watching him catch the ball and I don't see a defender on the screen yet? It's really shocking the way that they could clear out and understand. All right, here's a read, and then not to use the decoy word, but we know where we want to go immediately with this ball, and this is where the play is setting up for if we get this look. And when that hits, it is really masterful.
Don't say that word in front of Sal's. My God, you'll be walking bow-legged for a week. One of my favorite clips of the past couple of weeks on the show is Sal's talking about Deshaun Watson's decoys. I want to remind you, if you look at the banner at the bottom of the page, we are presented on both types of sports by Dream Stay Getaways. You can go to their website right now, book there. You avoid all the Airbnb fees, all the Verbo fees. Fuck that shit. If you're going down to Florida, you want to go to Universal, you want to go to Disney, you want to go to everything, all the theme parks. They got beautiful homes, themed rooms, movie theaters. They're in resorts. I know the people that run this business. They're fantastic. They do it right. Dreamstaygetaways.us is the website. Go check out the houses. Keep it in your back pocket. Save the link. They're on Instagram. Give them a follow. And if you're planning a Florida trip down to see the parks, stay at one of those houses and book through the website. You will save a pile of cash, and they're in resort, so there's a bunch of shit to do when you're there if you don't want to bleed all your money every day at Disney. They got the water parks and all the fun stuff, the tennis courts and the pools and all that. So thank you to them for supporting the show and presenting it for the entire football season tour. That's big. Dreamstaygetaways.us. I pulled this, and every dog has their day. No, I'm kidding, of course. The Washington Commanders, I'm going to say it, so one of the biggest surprises of this season. I think you and I spoke about Jaden Daniels, and a lot of people thought he was going to be the guy that all these quarterbacks that were taken this year, he was going to be the one that found immediate success. But we had questions about the line. Certainly had questions about the Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury experiment. I thought the division would be better at this point than it has been, but one of the most impressive victories, if not the most impressive victory, going on the road and just stomping another NFL team out. This was right after the game. I wanted to play this just because it's a very cool video, and then we can react. I know that you still watch this team very closely.
What's up, Bells? A couple things we said last night, man. We said it's great when you count on others and they count on you. And that way, victory is produced by
For the record, I did not edit this.
everybody, all right? And that's what tonight was, man. Fast, physical. We said anybody, anywhere, any motherfucking time, all right? So we did what we came to do, all right? So there'll be a number of game balls that will be issuing out, I'm sure, tomorrow. But there's one motherfucker that ain't leaving this city without one. Cliff! On to the motherfucking next. Yeah! Let's go, get in.
Who knew Cliff Kingsbury? I mean, Cliff Kingsbury is Joe Paterno and Vince Lombardi all rolled into one. Jesus Christ, who fucking knew, Tor?
Yeah,
Wow.
that is what a scene for the locker room, a really good one. And there's two things that accentuate the Commanders and all the momentum and hype that they have right now, which is deserved. One being Dan Quinn, who's everything that Ron should have been. He's got every positive trait that Ron had, whether it be X's and O's on defense. He wants to be a team first player coach and be a guy that people rally around. Ron it didn't end up as that in Washington. And he doesn't have all of the bad things that Ron has, which is the bored stoic nature on the sidelines. He's very involved in the game. People give him there's some heartbreak with him in Atlanta, but I will never say he wasn't a good coach that can turn a bad program around, a team around. And then also it's impactful to see the Skins, who had the number 2 pick, and their number 2 pick is doing better than the number 1 pick so far.
Sure.
Between two organizations that have been stuck in the mud for so long, with Washington and Chicago, with the quarterback situation, with the when are we going to get back to the playoffs? We're getting destroyed in our own division. To see Washington take that step before the Bears do this year, it will incite way more emotion in a direct comparison throughout the rest of the season. And I think throughout the rest of the careers between Williams and Daniels.
Hit the like button, you cowards. When do you think, Tor, the first sports talk radio? I mean, look, sports talk radio callers are bottom tier. I think we all know that. There's 5 or 6 of them that are decent to know what they're talking about. The rest really are just the most stupid people that you'll ever encounter. I know because I was one. That's how I got into radio, because I was a sports talk radio caller. When did they take the first we took the wrong quarterback call? When did they take the first we should have taken Jaden Daniels call in Chicago? Did it happen week 1? Did it happen week 2? You know goddamn well it's happening right now as they get ready to transition from middays to afternoon drive up there.
Right now, we are seeing a desperate concession from the Chicago Bears fans that are saying, oh my God, well, Caleb, it's only 4 games in, and, you know, we still believe, and I still believe in Caleb, but I have to, when you look at it on the field, when you look at the product on the field, it's tangible, because a lot of the throws so far that Caleb Williams isn't making, you would think Jaden Daniels does make. And that is something that a football watcher, a ball knower, can immediately recognize, and you just know. You feel it. I'm not saying if Daniels was in Chicago, they'd be 4-0, but I think that they score more touchdowns. I think the offense is better.
I agree, and it was a win yesterday for the Bears, if we're being fair. But I watched a good chunk of the Washington game yesterday, even though it was a blowout, just because I like to watch Jaden Daniels play. And, you know, he threw for a touchdown. He gets everybody involved. His numbers look good. Again, they did it without Eckler. Terry's involved. But they run the ball really well, Tor. And on his touchdown where it was I don't think it was an RPO. I think it was a designed run where he kind of skirted out and like squirted through and made a move and got it into the end zone. It just must make things so much easier. We always talk about the way the quarterbacks run and how it affects the passing game and how you have to sit there and spy and do all these different things. It's got to affect the run game as well, because if you know that guy can pull it back and boot out anytime that he wants, those linebackers have always got to be on pins and needles. So I just think one of the reasons why you're seeing them also run the ball well, and then use that aspect of their game to close out the Cardinals yesterday, is because he's such a threat with his legs as well. I mean, while he's healthy, he's going to be, at worst, the top 3 most exciting player in the league to watch. And Sal's called it last week. You know, Sal's called it before they went out there and dominated the Cardinals.
I would hope that eventually the running in the red zone progression for Daniels transitions to what, like we've seen from Lamar, where he runs for a bunch of yards, but you noted this offseason that last year Lamar had like 3 rushing touchdowns or 4 rushing touchdowns. He's not, when it comes to nut cutting time and you got all the big linebackers and D linemen on the goal line, eventually you don't want your quarterback running into those guys. So if you can have the threat that he could and just hand it off, that also opens up the offense even more, because you still have to be aware that he could pull it and run to the corner. And if you get a linebacker cheating, that's an easy score.
Nathan Farley says, I'm waiting to see how they react to adversity. Previous Washington teams have crumbled. Well, they're not undefeated. And Jaden's made some rookie mistakes, and Jaden's taken some bad hits. I've talked about that quite a bit on this show. I think most people see that. But if you're not seeing an upward trend with the whole group, and I know it starts with the quarterback, and I know if they drafted Drake May, they might not have a win right now, Tor. So I don't want to mitigate what Jaden's doing, but it's also the effect that he's having. Not just, you can say with the fan base immediately, they're so desperate and thirsty. He's the ultimate thirst trap for Commanders fans. A fucking quarterback that's also exciting to play well. But you can just see the guys when veterans can. Oh God, I can trust this guy. Oh, thank God. Can you imagine what Amari Cooper thinks every time he walks back to the locker room after Deshaun Watson?
Jesus Christ.
And what about the wear and tear, Tor, that has on your psyche? And it's like, it doesn't matter how many sit-ups I do, or I got this parachute attached to my asshole. I'm running a 50-yard fucking dash. It don't matter because this dickhead can't do his job. You can almost see the vets on the Commanders be like, oh, we got a guy that's going to go out there and he's got that dog in him and he's going to be able to fucking make plays for us. And I'm going to be able to make plays because of him. It's you can watch that unfold with that team and in that locker room video we just saw.
I would say they did face some adversity in the Cincinnati game. Their backs are up. Their backs weren't necessarily up the wall, but when's the last time you've seen the Washington football team or be able to ice a game with a big throw taking from a quarterback that's taking a monster hit? It's play of the season still. There were some good plays in that Arizona game, but that play started shaping out this season where it's not a miracle. It's not Case Keenum chucking one up and a safety makes a bad play. It's my quarterback threw a perfect pass at the right time and survived a brutal hit. And we won that game against a good Bengals team. This is a different outlook on the season now. It changed the entire narrative.
I know this is probably something you discussed ad nauseum on your other show, but just as a kind of a side note to getting hit and throwing that Arch Manning pass where he is getting crushed and then he goes to the ground and then throws it. And I know he danced for 30 minutes afterwards and everybody's obsessed with that. That was fucking insane. And the camera angle they showed it from behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't follow college football that religiously, so I'm late to the party on this, but that was incredibly impressive. And the angles they're now showing when they have that camera, I guess they stole from the XFL, that orbital cam that comes around and you can see like Kyler rolling around in the pocket and then split up. Like eventually we're going to be able to see every aspect of this game in ways that we probably shouldn't, in ways that like would be thought of as Spygate type shit in previous generations. Like you're getting too much information and too much access to what we're capable of doing. It's fun watching the technology show us how more athletic some of these plays are.
As long as we keep a cap on some of the technology and hold like I never want the chains to go away. I like the chain gang. I like measuring it with the chain because as soon as you start adding like millimeters for first downs, that's when fans are going to start realizing their teams suck. There's a little bit of luck with the chains. It's a referee eye line spot. I don't want the chip in the ball being the measuring tool. I like the lines on the field. I like that it's still a guess. I like that when you're in the stadium, you don't see the lines. So everyone has their own different perspective of first down or not. There's aspects of the game where I think the technology right now is perfect and should be left alone, but the cameras are spectacular. I don't like the ref cam because it gives me vertigo and it makes me nauseous. But a lot of the stuff I'm digging. And then to the original point about the quarterback taking the hit, that fires a team up. Because quarterbacks are untouchable now. It's everything's roughing the passer. Everything is protect the quarterback. But when a quarterback decides, hey, I'm playing football too, and I'm going to stand in this pocket, take a brutal hit, and still deliver the ball, that gets the whole team fired up.
Well, and it's also, I don't know. You're right. I think there's also a notion, even in the back of your head, that because they're treated with like this reverence now, that they're not football players, that they're not. And every time you see a quarterback out there and throw a pick or fumbles the ball, I feel like they're slow to get up. It's like, oh yeah, I'm injured as well. So whatever the opposite of that energy is, you're right. When they get crushed and they pop back up, like motherfucker, it's like, okay, like Baker does that shit. That's why I think people love Baker and they love to play with Baker. I want to get to Baker. We still have to slurp of King Henry. I mean, we've got too much to get to. So the Broncos are 2-2. They go in and win 10-9 against the Jets in a very sloppy game. And there's a lot of jokes about Bo Nix throwing for 60 yards and 1 touchdown, and somehow they win. And it is what it is. But you can lose shitty games like that. And it's a Sean Payton coach team. They've been competitive this year, and I think they're going to get better. They were asked about all the penalties, and we were talking about this at the very beginning of the show. If you're just tuning in, 15 penalties were called on the Jets, 13 were accepted, 90 yards. This is a tight game, low scoring game. That's a big deal. They asked Robert Saleh, I'm going to play Saleh, then I'm going to play Rodgers, about all of the penalties after the game yesterday.
It was 15 penalties called on you guys, 13 accepted. I mean, what was going on? I mean, a lot of them were pre-snap. I know we had a PI. I know we had the Allen had one on the celebration, but just a lot of pre-snap penalties, which is unacceptable. That's the stuff that we have to get that cleaned up. If we can't, you're always going to have in-play penalties. Those are going to happen, but the pre-snap and post-snap penalties, those are the ones that are unacceptable.
So he's blaming the pre-snap penalties specifically. So the false starts and getting up to the line. And so then you would assume that has maybe something to do with Aaron Rodgers and something to do with, he's kind of known for his cadence, right? Tor, like he'll get up there and 318 and then fucking get guys to jump and all that shit. So They like my impression, by the way. I'm gonna tell you something. I am the Mike O'Mara of football impressions. I'm gonna do an impression of a guy tackling somebody right now. You ready? You ready to hear this? Thank you very much. This is your boy A-Rod. I don't ever remember calling him that before this season, but he was asked about Salah's comments on the penalties. And this is, of course, I'm sure most people have seen it on X today. A lot of people reacting to this response.
Specifically, Robert said that might be something you guys have to dial back a little bit. Is that something you think could potentially help the situation?
It's one way to do it. The other way is hold them accountable. I mean, we have.
Yikes. So dial back the cadence or hold them accountable. I say Aaron Rodgers wants to do B, Alex.
The other way is hold them accountable. I mean, we haven't had an issue. We've had one false start. Morgan had one false start, I believe, until this. So, you know, it's been a weapon. We use it every day in practice. We don't, you know, we rarely have a false start. And to have, I don't know, 5 today, it seemed like, 4 or 5. Yeah, it seems like an outlier. I don't know if we need to make mass changes based on, you know, kind of an outlier game.
There's one thing that you don't see coach and quarterback Tor going back and forth in the media at the same press conference all that often. And there's a way Aaron Rodgers could have answered that without sticking it to his coach, regardless of whether or not he agreed with him. Like Robert Saleh can be 100% wrong here, which he probably is. I'm guessing Aaron Rodgers and his cadence is something he's comfortable with and his teammates are comfortable with. But that's not how he reacted. And I'm sure he was in his feelings at the moment. That's a tough loss, but not a good sign. Week 4, week 5, you already have friction where we all assume there was friction already anyway.
Yeah. I'd also like to note that Saleh looks like when he first got to the Jets, he's almost gone for the full presidential before and after term, how they look all roughshod after they're leaving office. That dude looks like Skeletor. Are you kidding me?
He doesn't look the same. You're right about that.
He came into this Jets job like the most excited, gleam in the eye, jacked coach with tons of energy and passion. Look at that guy. That is not the same coach.
That's rough, right, bro. That's why you don't take the Jets gig. Like, dude, I feel terrible for saying that. You got to take the gigs, and you know you got to take the Panthers job. You got to take the fucking, if you're Joe Judge, and they're like, we want to hire you off of Bill Belichick's staff. Like, yeah, it's fun to say no, don't do that. Stay with the Patriots, but you got to take these gigs. What'd you expect? You're in New Jersey. You're the New York media. You're the redheaded stepchild of the 2 franchises that they have. Nothing good comes out of New Jersey.
Yeah,
sorry about that, Tor. I forgot you fucking live there.
You're not that far off.
Yeah,
but he for something so that should be so minuscule in a game plan, which is the snap count, doing everything right before the play. For an NFL team, you should be able to do that in your sleep. You should literally be able to go up to break the huddle with your eyes closed, get set, and then run your play blindfolded, which I believe a lot of these teams would be able to do. But the Jets, that's not their focus. No. I don't know what they are doing on offense. I can't pinpoint the issue. They have talent. They rebolster the offensive line. They have guys. They have Aaron Rodgers, who we saw 2 weeks ago look like Aaron Rodgers. And then they go out and it looks like maybe they are getting out coached. Maybe it's game plan. It's not really working. And Hackett isn't a guy that he needs maybe Hackett's like an orchid coordinator where it just needs to be perfect for him. This Jets team does not have that gene to will out a nasty game or to win in a game where it's just a toss up. I think they're gonna lose to teams that they shouldn't lose to all year.
I think Aaron's right for this one, though. I do think it's an outlier. I think that's a weird matchup against a weird coach in a bad weather situation. But on the other side, Tor, and I think you know this, if you're a playoff team, you don't lose to the fucking Denver Broncos at home. This was a Redskins argument for so many years. They wanted to make all these different excuses about all these bad losses to Giants teams that were winning 2 games and 2 of them were against Washington. It's like, hey man, if you're going to be a competitive, decent franchise, you don't lose games horrifically in week 17 that can get you into the postseason. And if the Jets think they're a Super Bowl team, the Jets think they can win the division. And by the way, the Bills got absolutely cuckolded last night you had an opportunity to chop some fucking wood, and you lose by 1 to so far a very mediocre Denver Broncos team. Bill Chesley, $20 super chat. We do accept super chats if you're enjoying the program. You can at least hit that like button. Love the show. Love Tor's real-time reaction to Atlanta's win yesterday. I don't know your setups, but would it be possible for Sunday's BTOS to incorporate more real-time game watching and reaction from both of you? Yeah, I mean, we couldn't put the shit up on the screen, Bill, just because we get claimed immediately. I would be open to something like that. I can only speak from my end. We don't generate a lot of profit with this show. So if it was a situation where I thought it would help with the super chats or with people's interest in growing the brand, like I probably would do that. But I don't know, Tor. I like watching the games. Like I fucking like sitting down and just watching the game. I know a lot of people do watch-alongs. Rogan does watch-alongs for fights. I don't know. What do you think about that idea?
I think the Sunday show works because it's conversational about what's happening. It's not all instant reaction. And seeing what, the live stream watch-alongs are tough because you're just it's not a show. And I like doing, a show talking football with.
I agree with that.
Here are the talking points. It's more of just like a hang. And hangs are fun, but I think the main point of the Sunday show is all the batshit, reacting to all the batshit that's taking place.
It's happening. Exactly.
It's happening. And you get it because it's you're in the thick of the storm where all the narratives are beginning and where they're shifting. And maybe things change in the fourth quarter of the 1 p.m. window. But a lot of these stories really start generating in that second and third quarter when we really start cracking the mics.
I like too, when we're like, all right, this game's coming to a close. What do we think about that? All right, this one's kicking off. Oh my God. Because remember, fucking, Marvin Harrison Jr. scored in the first 3 seconds of the Cardinals Washington game. You're like, this is a wrap. These guys are bums. Yeah. By the time we're off the air, they're down 17-7. I think the way I would like it, Tor, is if it was funny. Like if it was Jacksonville Giants in week 14 and they both have 3 wins like on a Thursday night. Like I think we could have some fun with a situation like that if the game really made sense. I couldn't imagine you and me sitting here for like Chiefs Bills on Sunday night and it's like, well, you better hear what fucking we have to say about this as it's happening. No, I want to sit there and watch that goddamn game.
Sitting and watching the games is it's valuable because you get to hear the commentary. You get to yell at Collinsworth.
Be drunk. You get to be drunk too.
Get to be really drunk. And then Collinsworth was on better behavior last night. I appreciate it.
He wasn't unbearable, I would say. Bill, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. And we'll keep it in mind. I imagine we could probably make that happen before the end of the season. David Marksbury, great impressions tax for $2. Thank you. Oh, which one? That was the first time I debuted my cadence impression, Tor. I know you were very impressed, it looked like.
Oh, I thought it was for the tackle, the NFL player being tackled. Can
I do my Dak impression? You ready for this?
Oh,
hey, here we go. Click. That's me turning off the TV. Click. Click. 318. Shut the fuck. I don't know who's more. Cam's was the worst. Cam Newton's cadence was the worst. Mahomes drives me up the fucking wall. Peyton I was so over the Omaha. I don't know that if I hated Omaha as much as I hated Omaha shtick. Omaha shtick still wakes me up in the middle of the night.
Sucked. I thought Omaha was fine. It's unique. And I think if you're Dallas, here we go. The defense could time that up. I just want a quarterback going and do we have, is it on clap? Is it on silent count? Is it on 1? Is it on 2? I don't need all this other shit. Because I think the defense in the NFL, these D linemen are so smart, and Von Miller got paid $140 million by the Bills to kind of just get a sack a year just because he was so good at timing up quarterback cadences and getting that jump. So it's a skill in the NFL to be able to track those.
All right, I want to get to I definitely want to get to the Ravens and our guy, but we do accept super chats and we do appreciate it when people send super chats. Spider Clamp, $5. Thank you, brother. Great weekend of football. Nice to see the Bills get smacked down. Huntley starting for us tonight. Not sure what to expect. Good luck, Dukes. Tours W. Thumbs up. Spider Clamp spreading that football aloha with all the good wishes. Thank you, buddy. As you can see, Clamp, and I appreciate your super chat very much. In my bio, Levis benched tonight, so I don't have the highest hopes. This is the type of game Tor, where if you're a bad quarterback on a winless team, you're like, oh, we got to get this one. If we don't get this one, our season's over. This is when you come out onto the 50-yard line, pull your football pants down, and take a giant shit in the middle of the field. And I think that's what Will Levis is going to do tonight. And then I think we'll see Mason Rudolph. And after that, Janie bar the door, because if they truly are a talented team with a good defense and weapons that can run the football and a good young head coach, Mason Rudolph is good enough to go out there and give you a 50-50 shot, because he's not going to shit the ball all over the carpet. And if that doesn't happen, we'll all look back when they fired Mike Vrabel saying, why are you firing Mike Vrabel? Because you shouldn't. He's a good head coach, and we all know that, because that's what I fucking said into every microphone I could. Thank you.
How happy do you think the NFL is that you have Seattle, Detroit bailing this first game out after 45 minutes? I want to see that ratings skew. I want to see what that first hour was on Miami, Tennessee, and see what the next 2 hours are after that second game starts up, because it could be a rough one.
Hey, big start, big fucking everybody. I hope you're throwing your Seattle's demise parties tonight, because if you take a look at the rest of their schedule, the fun times are over. I mean, you got to beat who's in front of you, Tor, and they got 3 teams put in front of them. They beat them. Go take a look at that divisional schedule. Go take a look at who's coming up in the next few weeks, and it starts with a good team tonight. So it would not surprise me if we have a much different conversation about them moving forward. Let's talk about the man of the hour. King Henry. The Dallas Cowboys had absolutely no interest in signing him. Imagine being able to say that into a microphone and not having people throw cabbages at you the way Bill the Butcher threw them at that guy playing named Lincoln. 24 carries, 199 yards. He averaged 8.3 yards per carry. Started the game off with just an absolute epic ripper of a vintage Derrick Henry run. Rushed for a touchdown. Also caught a touchdown pass. Had 3 catches as well. Tor, I did something last night that I've never done. I'm 45 years old. I'm going to be 46 this year. It's over for me. I'm washed. I have never chest bumped a Ravens fan. And last night I chest bumped a Ravens fan because he was wearing a Ravens Derrick Henry and I was wearing a Titans Derrick Henry. And we went up and we went, bleh! And it was more of a belly bump, if I'm being honest, because the bellies were certainly there. These were not vodka drinkers. These were beer drinkers. I don't know. You can't hate the Ravens enough, and I don't like the Ravens, to not watch Derrick Henry play the way he played last night as a football fan and get a big old throbbing grain silo in your pants. That was as good as it gets for me. And I know you're as big a running back fan as I am. That was as good as it got last night.
There is something magnetic about Derrick Henry where I don't know a football fan that doesn't like him. And maybe it's because he was on Tennessee for so long. And I don't know people that don't like Tennessee because, you know, it's the Titans. They don't kind
really... of a vanilla franchise. I don't think anybody hates Tennessee that isn't like a Jacksonville fan.
Right. But the Derrick Henry magnetism is so strong that it's every group chat I'm in is blowing up. Every single one. Did you see that? Did you see Derrick Henry? Last king again. And all I'm thinking is how lucky I am to still be watching him bust these long 100%. Runs. And it's what if we made American Pharaoh an NFL running back and watching the big stallion go 80 yards? It's unbelievable watching him play football. And if I was Stephen Jones, I would be in that office today, punching my dad upside the head, just knuckling him like he did when I was a kid, and just saying, "What is wrong with you?"
You're on record saying we couldn't afford this guy. I would work the breadbasket though, Tor. I wouldn't leave any marks on him.
What are you stick and move? Just get in there, stick. But what are you doing? Like, why would you ever not call this guy? Not call. Okay, if he was demanding $30 million for the next 2 years, maybe then you could say that. He wasn't though. And you had the arrogance to bring Fat Zeke back and to put CeeDee Lamb in the backfield on Thursday night
Fat
football
Zeke.
And watch Derrick Henry do this against the Bills, who's a good team.
And the Bills are feeling themselves going into that game, weren't they? By the way, Ravens only favored by 2.5. You don't think I cleaned up last night on old my bookie? He doesn't want to advertise. Fucking cleaned up last night.
It is, and I'm sure other teams didn't call Derrick Henry. They should be ashamed also.
All of them.
But nobody is going to have more egg on their face at the end of this season than the Dallas Cowboys for their ineptitude in the offseason.
And the guy that owns the team going in front of a microphone and saying something he really didn't need to say and also isn't true is a lie. And then Derrick Henry goes, by the way, treats it well. Hey, I wanted to play there. They didn't call me. I'd love to play. And then goes out and destroys. Monk brings up in the chat a great point. Tor, you're never going to be able to tackle him. He's going to be 65, and it's like, go bring that guy down. No, thank you. I don't want to live the rest of my days in old age. The burst, once he gets going, the separation speed where he's 30 years old and 250 whatever odd pounds and running away from linebackers and running away from safeties. I honestly didn't think he had that club left in his bag, and he fucking does, man. And I actually tweeted out at the end of the game, I said, imagine this guy's been taking your soul for 3.5 quarters and he was still in the game and they still had to try to tackle him. It must have just been miserable.
That game was a Ravens fan's dream because you saw Lamar running the rock with speed. You saw Henry really unlocking and getting it going. And you saw Justice Hill, who was probably his second most important player of that game last night, converting massive third downs out in the flat, having the energy because Derrick Henry is up there moving the chains. And now it's my turn to go move the chains. This is that running attack that everyone was lauding in the offseason against in a playoff game in September that we just watched. And if they played this game this same way in January, they win playoff games. If they revert back to the Baltimore mean and start chucking it over all the field and hoping Rashad Bateman isn't Rashad Bateman for some reason, then they will lose. But if they stick with this, impressive.
Rashee Rice getting knocked out by Mahomes by his own player. Looks like he is gonna miss the season. All of the names being thrown around that they should be trying to go out and make a trade. First of all, that doesn't feel very Kansas City Chiefs to me. Tor, they like to just kind of stick with dog shit and go out and win the Super Bowl. Anyway, Kyle Pitts is intriguing. I don't know how that works with Travis Kelce there. I imagine they can make it work. The guy that jumps off the page is after another loss, and we already know what he put on Instagram. I wouldn't mind a bit when all the rumors were surrounding him going to the San Francisco 49ers. Amari Cooper, who is still a great receiver, but in the twilight of his career, him going to Kansas City and probably catching 10 touchdowns before the end of the season and having a chance at a Super Bowl when that guy has played with some just really dog shit quarterbacking situations in Cleveland since he left Dallas. I love that idea. I think financially I was reading they could make it work. I don't know what the compensation would be, but if we get to a point where the Browns are selling and Kansas City's willing to make a move, that's the guy I'd like to see moved out there.
Cooper's still only 30 years old.
That's crazy, man. I feel like he's been playing since the late 90s.
He came in really young. I think he came in like he was 20 years old. And he's been sold for chips at every single team. And if this happens, he'll probably get another raw deal.
Yeah.
But what an impact he could have at Kansas City. He had a huge touchdown yesterday, called back for some holding from the backup center of the Browns. That sucked. Amari Cooper is just one of these receivers. He gets open on the deep route when he doesn't seem like a burner, but he's always open deep. And then he makes crazy contested catches on the sidelines. And if you need someone to replace Rashee Rice, who the Kansas City Chiefs do, Juju Smith-Schuster is not going to replace him. No. Rashee Rice, whatever you think about him, and then the him playing this season after the driving incident and all that, he's an impact player for them. He's a really good wide receiver, and he fits really well in that offense. They need to make a move quickly because they beat the Chargers with a hobbled Justin Herbert, but eventually, the Chiefs get everyone's best. Eventually, that's going to start catching up to them.
Do you know, is Hollywood Brown on IR, or is he on we can revisit this in a few weeks? Because I know that Hawkinson is coming back. He was put on that IR that's 5 weeks. He's actually coming off it this week. The Vikings are going to get him back. If they're getting Hollywood Brown back at all, they're not. Is he done for the year?
Yeah, it's not a week's injury. It's a month injury. It was the last report.
So Xavier Worthy getting more opportunities, I'm definitely interested in that, but he's so slight, and I know they made it work with Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill got pretty cock diesel pretty quickly from what I recall. So it's just a different type of frame. So look, Do I think they're gonna win 14 games regardless of what happens? But DeAndre Hopkins, like if the Titans go out tonight and piss it down the side of their leg against the fucking guy the Dolphins signed off the waiver the practice squad 2 weeks ago, then yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, he's got an injury. I think he's got a torn MCL that he's playing with. He's playing with something he shouldn't be playing with, but he could easily go to Kansas City and get 10 touchdowns in that offense.
My first call for Kansas City is Devontae Adams in Vegas. Get him.
It's a lot of money, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but get him away from Gardner Minshew. Let Adams take me to the playoffs.
The Raiders won, and they're not going to trade him in division, Tor. I mean, I love the fantasy booking, but I don't think they'd trade him into the AFC. That's why I don't think he's going to end up with the Jets. I don't see them doing that.
Maybe Davis has some of that old football in him where he's not going to be as stupid as the Buffalo Bills. Nice catch on the sideline, Keon Coleman. I'm sure that's going to work out for you.
There's some disappointing rookie wide receivers in the league this year. Speaking of Pierce, did you see that he came out after I believe the quote was, "There was a lot of hoopla and stuff. Probably started with me with my comments. I apologize for that." Yeah, look, I love Coach Pierce, but you fucking think so? Don't want to be a distraction that way, but I think we just went to work each and every day. Things came out throughout the week, and the guys never flinched, and the guys never blinked. They are now 2-2, and they get the 2-2 Denver Broncos next week. They won this week without Devontae Adams and without Max Crosby when there was a shitload of chaos going on, and they have a bad quarterback, Tor. I don't care. That's impressive to be able to rally. That is a death spiral waiting to happen if you let it, and that's a big win for them.
I'm a traditional rooter for the Raiders. They are a rooter. But the old school Raiders, there's so much history and nostalgia and romanticism about them. They're not that anymore. I think Antonio Pierce is a coach that really embodies that traditional Raiders feel, which I love. But with Gardner Minshew, I can't treat them as a serious contender or team this year. And I won't watch a second of that Raiders-Broncos game next week. I just won't. I refuse to have that be the game I'm paying attention to.
Maybe that's the one we could do a stream for, because that's an eye bleach game. You are right about that. I mean, that is some unattractive football that's going to be played. Jorge Gonzalez said the Cowboys could have had Amari Cooper and Derrick Henry if Jerry Jones could afford it. Right. Yeah. I mean, you make jokes, but it's the same bullshit line. They're the Bengals with a better PR firm. They really hate paying people that they should, and they wait way too long to do it. And by the time they do it, everyone's mad and disgruntled. So yeah, that's what I think about that. Do we have time? We should wrap it up, Tor. We'll how about this? Let's save Brady responding to Baker for Sal's, because I want to get Sal's take on that as well.
That'll be fun.
Were you able to enjoy? I know you popped off, but generally then the malaise sinks back in. Were you able to enjoy the big victory over the hated New Orleans Saints?
Yeah, watched the rest of the football afternoon and evening with the lamp on in my room, which was nice. Yeah,
instead of just in the cold dark.
Yes, exactly. I actually, it was raining and overcast, which is perfect football weather. I never want to see a sunny Sunday during the season, especially when it's nice out, because your
depression manifests itself. For those people that are just becoming familiar with Young Gigantor, he is so depressed he denies himself automobile travel when his team loses, and if they win, he allows himself to turn a lamp on in the room. I mean, it's just fucking crazy, dude.
With even how close that game was at the end, and I watched that game twice over last night, and I'm like, am I gonna feel some excitement? No, we got lucky.
I feel anything. The only thing that I feel is when I take this lighter, the butane lighter, and I spark it up and hold it up against my thigh. I'm gonna spark up this can of stew and take a river nap. You should get yourself a river nap, Tor. I bet you could find a river up there. Reward yourself. Big guy.
If they lost, I was gonna take a train track nap. One right by me.
You won't take a Jersey Turnpike nap.
I see these Uber Eats delivery bikers almost get clipped by this train every day. It's a mess.
Well, I know I'm rooting for the train. Rooting for them fucking assholes. Thank you to Bill Chesley, David Marksbury, and Spider Clam for super chatting. We will be back on Thursday with Sean Salisbury. That should be fun. What is the Thursday game, Tor? You mind looking that up real quick?
Yeah, I can check it out.
I should know that, but I don't know that. 2 games tonight. That is exciting. I'm sure we'll recap all that. And please, while we're gone, links at the bottom. Go to iTunes and go to Spotify, whichever one you use. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave a 5-star review. And please to be following us on Twitter and Instagram. You can see it at the top of the page. It is at Both Types Sports. You can check the description in the bio of the YouTube for all those fucking links. Who is it, big man?
Thursday night, everyone's going to be treated to Tampa Bay at Atlanta.
Oh, that is a barn burner. That's for the division right there, Jack. That's a huge game.
It's massive. Tampa Bay's a better team, man.
Where is it? Where's the game?
It's in Atlanta. They're honoring, I think they're putting Matt Ryan in the Ring of Honor this week.
Oh, that's going to be bad. He's going to go in the Ring of Honor and they're going to lose by 30. Oh.
Yeah. I'm going to watch Mike Evans just posterize AJ Terrell 3 times in the end zone.
Boy, that's tough.
Bucky Irving, rookie running back's going to go for 50-50 and 2 touchdowns.
Hey, man, ain't nobody a bigger Bucs fan than me. They continue to decimate the Philadelphia Eagles and make that fucking moron clown car of a coach just look like a buffoon. And I am so sick, Tor, of the Devontae Pelly, Smith Pelly, AJ Brown bullshit. You fucking paid your I know we said this yesterday, but you paid your quarterback at the time more than anyone's ever been paid. You should be competitive against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You may not win, but you should be within 20 points.
If you consider yourself to be a legitimate playoff team and a team that should run away with the NFC East, you need to have a legitimate fight against the Bucs. You can't go out there and look like that. You can lose to the Bucs. The Bucs are a good team, but you can't lose in the way that you lost.
Did you hear what Nancy Martley Sirianni Sirianni said to they actually, I thought it was a good answer. They came out and some shithead reporter was like, hey, why'd Saquon only get the ball 2 times in the first quarter? And he goes, we only had 9 plays. He goes, we had 9 plays and some of them were punts. What do you want me to do? We couldn't do anything. And I was like, yeah, that's right. That's actually a really good answer. Oh, very good. All right, Tor. Well, I will see you Thursday then, my friend.
Sounds good.
All right, this episode will be available today on iTunes and Spotify. Go check it out. And until we meet next time, friendos, go long, real long.
Hey, what do you got?
Both types of sports.
Yeah, what's it do? Go long. Real long. Nice toss.